Hello, and welcome to myfinanceteacher.org. First of all, thank you guys for all the comments. And today we're going to talk about gold because some of the comments asked to have a look at gold. Before we continue, let me remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you haven't and click that bell notification. Thanks a lot. I want to start this video with this somewhat of a longer term chart of the US dollar. And we see that over the last couple of years, US dollar has been trending upwards, and more recently, within about a year and a half, it's been going up within this upward sloped channel. However, it looks like what's happening at the moment is dollar is breaking down from that channel, and if this breakdown plays out over the next year or two, I think that's going to help gold a lot to finally create new all-time highs in the US dollar, just like it has already done in many other currencies, as I mentioned in my previous video. Now, zooming in a little bit on the US dollar chart, it's a little bit unclear where the previous intermediate cycle in the US dollar has finished. I think the correct way to view the previous intermediate cycle in the US dollar is the cycle lasting between late June and early November. Although this is somewhat of a short cycle, generally these should last for about half a year. This would give us under 5 months. There is a smaller chance as well that the previous intermediate cycle in the US dollar should be counted all the way until mid-December. I think it's correct to count the previous intermediate cycle in the US dollar as somewhat of a short one between June and November. That gives us the ongoing intermediate cycle, which has topped about a month after it had started. This, I think, is a more likely possibility, giving us possibly a few months of downward trend in the US dollar. Although over the next few days, I think US dollar might actually pop up a little bit. We might have seen the daily cycle finished a few days ago in the US dollar. We see the poke through the Bollinger Bands, and the RSI is already oversold. So within the daily cycles, we might see dollar recovering a little bit over the next couple of weeks before it continues the intermediate cycle down trend line. Now looking at gold, the previous intermediate cycle lasted here between May and mid-November, and we are now in the new intermediate cycle. So far the performance has been outstanding. I've mentioned in my previous video on gold that I was expecting the gold to reach at least 1600 by the top of the intermediate cycle. And gold has actually already exceeded expectations. We've reached 1600 within the first daily cycle of the ongoing intermediate cycle. So over the next couple of months, I still expect higher highs. Although in the shorter term, I think we are due for some correction. Let's look at the daily cycles now. The ongoing daily cycle has already lasted for 57 days. Generally, the usual duration for these daily cycles is a couple of months, 2 to 3 months. We see that the price is repeatedly poking through the upper range of the Bollinger Bands. We see that the RSI is very deep into overbought territory. So I expect gold to cool off a little bit over the next couple of weeks. And that cool off in gold actually coincides well with a possible short-term strengthening in the US dollar. So our daily cycles in gold, we might have already topped recently just above 1600. As we cool off, one of the first support zones is that previous high that's at about 1560. Whether that will be the low for the daily cycle or it will dip lower, that remains to be seen. However, within the intermediate cycle, I would still expect higher highs. For that reason, personally, I'm not going to sell my gold and silver positions completely. What I might do is maybe sell a small percentage of those positions. Say only around 20% of those positions. I will still keep 80% invested until I think the intermediate cycle has topped. And the 20% that I might sell over the next couple of days, I will try to use that cash to buy up again if I see a daily cycle low forming over the next couple of weeks. So although I think gold should cool off temporarily, generally I think you still would be better off holding on to your long positions. Looking at GDX, the miners chart, I said you'd better hold on to your long positions, especially if instead of the commodity itself, you're actually holding the gold and silver miners. As we see over here, gold miners have not created a higher high compared to its previous intermediate high, while gold has already done so. That means that gold miners are underperforming gold at the moment, whereas usually they outperform gold. Looking at the previous intermediate cycle rally, when gold rallied by under 23% between May and September, GDX has actually rallied by over 53% within the same period. And what we see at the moment is GDX is lagging behind gold a little bit. So I think there is still a very nice potential for your long positions to work out well in the gold miners, as GDX needs to catch up a little bit with the gold price. And lastly, looking at silver, similar situation here. Silver also usually outperforms gold. Here between May and September, silver has risen by nearly 37%, whereas since the beginning of December, it has not actually created a higher high. So I think there is still a very nice potential in silver over the intermediate term, into the intermediate cycle top. Although over the short term, as I mentioned, investors should be somewhat cautious. In silver, RSI is also already into overbought territory, while in gold miners, RSI, although close to overbought territory, it hasn't entered the overbought area yet. So in summary, some cool off over the short term, but still higher highs over the intermediate term over the next few months. If you'd like that outlook to actually play out, you know what you gotta do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you stay tuned, and good luck in your trades.